Welcome to DIY RV and Home Camper's Life. My name's Greg. Today we're going from this in our bathroom to this. So let's jump in and let's get this project going. So here what I'm going to go ahead and do is go ahead and remove the cabinet door. Get that out of the way so I can come in and start removing the plumbing. Once the P-trap's out of the way, I can come back, go ahead and cut the PEX lines. Get them out of the way, and at the same time I'm cutting the vent for the drain out of the way. Here I'm going to go ahead and remove the sink and the faucet from the cabinet. Once that's out of the way, I can go ahead and start removing all the screws that are holding this to the wall and floor. Now most of the screws were just into paneling itself. They never went into any of the studs. Had to take my oscillating saw and cut some of the cabinet out. They put the cabinet in and then did the plumbing. So they just cut a hole right into the side of the panel. That oscillating saw makes short work of that. Once that's out of the way, I can continue locating and removing the screws. There's probably about 20 plus screws holding it. Now, get her outside, and we can go ahead and start working on getting the countertop itself removed. Now I'm just taking a hammer and just tapping my way around. The countertop is just stapled to the cabinet. So to try to save the cabinet, just tap it slow and light all the way around. Now what I'm going to do is going to go ahead and separate the two halves of the cabinet. Ended up removing the paneling that I'm working on right there between the two cabinets and replacing it in the end, but that was fine. I had some on hand. Paneling is getting to be fairly expensive right now. Luckily I had about a sheet and a half. So now what I'm doing is just on the table saw, just ripping it down to the size that I want. I'm taking the back side of the cabinet and removing that part. Go ahead and take the one shelf out. Just getting all measured up so I can cut it back down and get it all prepped. And I've got a couple new pieces that I'm also cutting for shelves. That's that piece that I want to replace for the side. That got damaged. There's just staples. And when you pull the staples, it just pulls right through the paneling. So here I'm working on creating a bigger notch for the plumbing and electrical. That's running through there at the back of the cabinet. Get that new piece on the side fixed. And I'm just using inch and a, let's see, those are I believe inch staples there. I also have some inch and a half for some of the thicker material. Taking some of the 1x1s and getting those back into place, because that's what actually holds the counter together. Now on our cabinet, the way the face frame was built, there were some radiused pieces, so I couldn't go completely flush with my cabinetry. It would have really looked weird. So what I did is I did a recess, and I think it came out looking excellent with that little bit of a recess. Now just trying to make sure everything's lined up, get everything in place as I'm stapling it back together. And here I'm working on increasing some of the storage in the cabinet also. My intention was to take and make two additional storage pockets at the bottom of the cabinet. It didn't quite work out that way, but still we gained some area for either a garbage can or put some spare paper or toilet paper.
All right, let's take a look at where we are so far. We've got the two halves put together. We were originally going to be building two shelves, one here and one here. But after looking at the plumbing and everything like that, we would have probably only had a 3-inch shelf here. So instead of doing that, I went ahead and came back over here, and I was putting another one over here, but I increased the size of it. You know, got it as far back as I could. So this is about 7 inches deep over here. This is gonna be great. We can put some toilet paper, the trash can, or whatever here. So that's where we're at right now. I'm gonna start getting this built in place, start reattaching the cabinet to the wall. One of the things I'm going to also do is go and I'm going to put some silicone in each one of the holes here that were from previous when this was mounted. That way it's sealed up. A lot of these are going to be new holes anyways, so I'm not too worried about that. So let's keep going on with the project.
All right, like I said, here I am filling the screw holes with some silicone, and went ahead and put the cabinet back in place and started to put some screws in. What I'm doing is I'm measuring to make sure it's parallel, as level as possible, and gonna go ahead and start screwing stuff in. Like I said, most of these screws are just going into paneling, so I'm being very careful not to over tighten them, so I don't strip them out. I was lucky enough to get a few of them into studs, so that helped make it really secure. Right here I'm just showing you what it's going to look like, excluding the sink and faucet, of course. Now that countertop, that is actually our old dinette table. That right there is the original cubby. Below that is the one I will be adding. I had just taken and mocked up, made sure the plumbing was going to work. That's why the sink and faucet were there. Now I'm just setting the faucet back in place, figuring out where I'm going to cut the PEX pipes so I can put some elbows in there, and of course getting those crimped down. And I'm using the Iowa crimpers that were sent out to us. They worked awesome. Really like using them. And the fittings, they were actually recycled from a project that I just got done doing, where I cleaned up the plumbing and electrical where the hot water heater is. So now it's going to go ahead and keep mocking it up and making sure everything's going to work.
What I'm doing is I'm mark the outside edge of the sink, and now I'm coming back in 3/4 of an inch. It's got a 1-inch lip. It's got a little bit of a radius on it, so I am coming in 3/4 of an inch. That should allow for that radius of the sink, allow me to mount it flat. At least that's the game plan. Once we kind of get this done, then we'll kind of do some measurements to make sure that it looks right. Then we're going to come back in and we're going to look at where the faucet goes first before we do anything else. So let's just in doubt, always go a little bit short. In this case, you'd cut a little bit this direction in, and then work your way out. But this right here should be the edge of the sink anyways, so we do have a little bit of room to work with. Now we got to work on our faucet. Ooh. 30.5, 1 3/4. Now once we set this faucet on there, hopefully it looks right. So here this is the trim piece. So if we set that right like that, that looks, if we look down, we'll see here is the center. And I mean, that's real close, and then we're just going to kind of go like this. We pull back out, we can see that our circle right here is right at the edge of the lip right here. So that's indicating that it looks like we did a good job on our measurements, because that's how we want it. We're going to have this sit just on top of the lip. All right, it's time to make some holes. Ooh. I can't remember what size hole I'm supposed to make, so I'm going to come in. I'm just going to grab my Forstner. Okay, so I grabbed the Forstner bit. I don't know what size it is. Looks like 1 1/4 is the size of that.
All right, so with the Forstner bit and the drill, I'm going to go ahead and start drilling, and made sure that the faucet fit. And now what I'm doing is going to go ahead and cut a pilot hole for my jigsaw. And just taking my time, cutting around. And as I get close to the end of the cut, I'm going to re-support that centerpiece so that it doesn't fall out and blow out any of the laminate on top. And here I'm just checking to make sure everything's going to fit how I want it. And all right, here's a kind of a look at what everything mocked up, plumbing in place, sink and faucet there. Everything's looking like it's supposed to. So here, what I'm doing is just doing some pre-drilling for the screws to attach the countertop to the wall. That way I'm not splitting out that wood right there. I'm just taking my time getting everything in place and then attaching it with the screws. Now I was able to attach almost all the way around the cabinet except for the very front lip of the sink, and that's just because that sink is so close to the edge. I couldn't get the backer there. So what I'm doing right here is going to go ahead and take some silicone caulking and apply it to the underside of the sink there. Now this is the caulking that goes on white but dries clear, and just creating probably about a 1/8 inch bed all the way around that, and that's actually what's going to attach the sink to the countertop. This is actually an undermount sink, but with a flat lip like that I was able to do it this way. And so I've probably got about 60 pounds of rocks in there in the sink. I got some protection underneath it so it didn't get scratched up, and that way I can get some pressure to hold it down in place.
Alright, so as you see, there is a little bit of a gap right here in the wall. Unfortunately, when everything got screwed back in place, the wall did buckle a little bit out, which is no problem. We were going to be putting some tile back here, So that'll cover that gap up, and we will just run some silicone right now in there. But that's inherent. I mean, these walls, you can see, just kind of flex back and forth. So just as I was tightening up the studs, it kind of buckled in. Not much I could do there. Couldn't foresee it, so I couldn't scribe that out. And once it appeared, I was already at the point of basically no return. So anyways, we're going to keep putting this in.
Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and get that faucet placed using some more of that silicone for a seal. Put the faucet in, get it lined how I want it. It's about a 45 off of the wall. Go ahead and put the retaining nut on. And here what I'm doing is putting on some adapters to go from the 3/8 compression to 1/2-inch pipe. Don't need any valves in here. If something happens, we just flip the switch off for the water pump. Now here I'm laying in the new shelf bottom that I've got and creating some templates, figuring out where I need to cut to get around the pipes and everything like that. Not got it done. It's back in, and now I'm actually installing the plumbing. You can see there's a white trim piece that I saved from the tear out, so I can use that there. The other one didn't work because I've got the lines for the faucet along with the drain there.
Alright, guess what? I think we can call this done. The only thing we got to do is de-winterize, make sure we got no leaks. But let's open it up, take a look at the bathroom, the remodel. As we come in, you can see that we have taken and we've pushed the counter back. We've changed the sink out. This is actually a 10-inch by 18-inch by, I believe, 6-inch deep sink. It's actually a bar sink, but works so beautiful. We've got our single handle faucet right there. You can come down here, we'll open it up. We've got all of our plumbing run down with the vent right here. This is the supply lines for the water. Comes down. We've got our drain here. So now this kind of opens all this area up, because before there was the P-trap here. That P-trap is now down below here in basically the plumbing mechanical area, which is already covered up. And there's a picture of it right here from what it looks like. We were able to add a nice storage area right here. Toilet paper, whatever, miscellaneous stuff right there, perfect. This has always been there, but that's a nice little storage. We put that curtain, maybe we'll do another curtain down here, I don't know. But coming in, and so leg room, arm room. Oh, it feels like it's 5 times the size it used to be, because it felt so cramped before. All right, I just got to let the silicone dry. We've got a few other things to do, just to de-winterize, make sure all the plumbing doesn't leak and everything like that. But this project is done. It is awesome upgrade. We've gained so much leg and arm room in here, it's not even funny. And I want to give a big old shout out to Patrick Lynch over at Art of RV. They wrote a blog on this exact project that they did in their 202RD, and of course when we saw that, it was like, we got to do that. It took us a while to finally get it done. You can see some of the stuff that they've done a little bit different than what we did on their blog. So again, a big shout out to them for giving us the inspiration. Folks, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you can see that it's not that hard to do. Take your time. Of course, you know, the particle board and all that stuff, be careful when you're working around with it. It is kind of delicate, to say the least. But as you can see, we got the job accomplished. We got the project done. Till the next video, I'm going to level out the mirror medicine cabinet that I just noticed was out of level after a couple years of having this thing. It's going to drive me crazy till I get that done. So that I'm doing off camera. You guys have a great camping season. Hope to see you on the next video. See ya.